Welcome back, and well, Tron and Justin Sun at the NASDAQ ringing the stock market bell. That's where we are in this cycle, and we're also going to be talking about the big move that is underway. We are now seeing massive quantities of Bitcoin being unlocked in the ecosystem of crypto, and a lot of this Bitcoin is now being sold. Without a shadow of a doubt, it is being sold. A lot of people think that these big whales are just unlocking these Satoshi era wallets for fun and just to let the market know, hey, I still got these coins, and they're not going to sell it. But that's not what's going on. They are selling their coins. And so we are at the point of the cycle where a lot of people still believe the bull market has not begun. Bitcoin went from 15,000 to over $120,000. We're seeing massive selling. We're seeing the transition into other areas of the market. And meanwhile, we have users like Thomas, who's a doctorate in Bitcoin bronomics. Okay. He said somewhere between hope and optimism, which is all the way down here before the rally has even begun. What does he consider the last year and a half in the markets where we've seen massive run-ups in cryptos, from the major ones like Bitcoin and Ethereum, all the way down to the meme coins like Tron and also Pump.fun. These are indicators of what is going on in the market. These are indicators of sentiment change in the market. And in today's video, we're going to be exploring the big move in crypto. This is how you can follow the whales, because the whales are showing us what they're doing, and they're showing us where they believe the second half of 2025 is going to bring them massive returns. So that's what we're going to be discussing in today's video. We're going to be doing a deep dive into all of this. I got videos to show you. I got a lot of articles and tweets that we're going to be discussing. So make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. Give the video a free thumbs up, because crypto is not free, but thumbs up are always free. And sometimes we talk about individual cryptos and do deep dives into them. And sometimes we talk about the macro environment in the markets to understand where we should be positioning our portfolios, what we should be looking out for. And that's what we're going to be starting right here with Jerome Powell and the president. Let's get into it. So you guys know, everybody is waiting on the Federal Reserve to lower interest rates. I mean, the economy is literally on pause, right? There is expansion in certain industries, but there's still a lot of uncertainty, and we're seeing large companies, many large companies that are laying off tens of thousands of their employees. We've already heard Amazon is about 75% robots in their warehouses. And so the conversation right now is what the Federal Reserve is going to do, and not just what they're going to do in July and August or September, but like what the plan is for the economy. And so, there's been a lot of pressure on the Federal Reserve to lower interest rates. Now, whether they're going to or not, whether it's going to make any material impact on the market or not, I don't know. As I've explained, my thesis is regardless of the number of cuts that they do, because they'll probably do 0.25% or 0.5%, by the end of the year, I think it's really coming down to, the next Federal Reserve chairman after Powell. Or maybe Powell just wants to leave his legacy as he started cutting rates right before he exited. We'll have to wait and see. But this is one of the funniest interactions I think I've ever seen with the president, and definitely with Jerome Powell. I want you guys to focus on what Jerome Powell's expressions are, because they are priceless, as Liquidity points out. But again, this is unprecedented. This is the first time in 2 decades that a president has visited the Federal Reserve, which is currently undergoing a multi-billion-dollar renovation. Meanwhile, again, the rest of the economy is kind of on pause. A lot of people have been expecting a lot more, especially from crypto, in this cycle, and we just haven't seen it, right? This is a different year than the last cycle, which is where everybody's recent memory is. And the cycle before that, you guys have to remember, that was, before there were many altcoins. So all of the liquidity was concentrated in just a few cryptos. So that's why we basically saw the massive run-ups. I don't think that we're going to see these 100x's across the board with most cryptos in this cycle. I could be wrong on this, but that's kind of seems like what everything's kind of leading up to. So let's watch this interaction, and then we're going to really get into the big move in the markets and what we need to be doing, what signals we need to be looking for, because I got a lot of the signals here, and I even have videos, conversations, and discussions with people throughout the industry where I think that it's really important to take it all into context of where we are in the cycle. Because in my view, I've been saying this pretty much all 2025 and definitely in the middle of 2025, June, July, and now August, that the bull market for Bitcoin is coming to an end and there is massive, massive selling going on. But why is there massive selling going on? Well, comes back down to the interest rates, Federal Reserve, because at the end of the day, if the stock market's not doing well, crypto doesn't do well. They're very highly correlated, even though you'll hear a lot of influencers and YouTubers saying they're not, but go look for yourself on the charts. They are. Anyway, watch this interaction. And again, look at the facial expressions of Jerome Powell here, talking about the Federal Reserve's spending for the Federal Reserve remodels or reconstruction. Let's listen in.
So we're taking a look, and it looks like it's about 3.1 billion. It went up a little bit, or a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it just came out.
Yeah, I haven't heard that from anybody at the Fed.
Yeah, it just came out.
Our notes had it about 3.1 as well.
3.1.
3.2.
This came from us?
Yes. I don't know who does that.
You're including the Martin renovation. You just added
our entire capital.
Yeah, you just added in a third building is what that is. That's a third building.
Well,
including
no,
the
but
Martin building.
it's a building that's being built.
No, it was built 5 years ago. We finished Martin 5 years ago.
It's part of the overall work.
But it's not new.
So we're going to take a look.
So as you guys see, there was a little bit of a disagreement about what the remodel is. I mean, I think that the president is correct that you have to take in the whole remodel, right? The whole renovation. Because if they're only doing small renovations every 5 years, but these are $3 billion every 5 years, that's a lot of money. I mean, guys, you could literally build, I think one of the stadiums, one of the baseball or basketball stadiums in the US was built for like less than $1 billion. And you're talking about an office building costing $3 billion just to remodel, not even to build up. It would probably be cheaper to tear it down and rebuild it. But anyway, it's neither here nor there. I just thought it was a fun interaction to kind of start the video off with. But now we really need to talk about what's going on in the markets, right? There are a lot of signals. There are a lot of red flags that are telling us that the bull cycle is coming to an end. And this is just one of those, right? Before we get into some of the Bitcoin sales and kind of why that's going on, we have to remember that pump.fun, this was the meme coin ecosystem, right? This is where all the memes coins were launching. Pump.fun is built on Solana. And so what did they do? They launched a token and it's been a complete and utter disaster. And now the community that has been using Pump.fun is over it and they are no longer supporting Pump.fun. You can see right here, this user on X said, Pump.fun is dead. As an OG user with over $1 million in trade volume and thousands spent on fees, I've supported this platform from day one. But after hearing this person who is the co-founder of Pump.fun say there's no Pump.fun airdrop in the immediate future, and instead asking the community to keep using the product, supporting artists who launch and made money on their own tokens, he's done. He said, you don't build a platform with your community and then turn your back on them when it's time to reward that support. From that point on, the interview was hot air. We've seen this movie before with OpenSea, the same wait and trust us line. And we all know how that ended. And by the way, I agree. Here's the deal. You should not expect anything from any participant in the market, from any company in the market, from any crypto in the market. At the end of the day, if you want them to airdrop you for using their platform, ask them before they launch a coin. And if they say, well, we have no plans for it or we haven't decided that yet, well, the answer is no until it becomes yes. And don't assume that it's yes. But again, we're at that point in the cycle where people expect things. They expect the prices to keep going up. They expect Michael Saylor to keep buying forever. They expect the debt to keep being purchased so that they can buy more Bitcoin. But at the end of the day, just because you want that to occur doesn't mean it's going to. And so this goes with many projects that we've been talking about in the crypto space. There's a lot of people who are still invested in cryptos for over 4 years that have not produced a damn thing. They haven't released or accomplished what they set out and said that they were going to and trying to accomplish. They haven't even kept up with the rest of the market. And there's still people holding on to these coins saying, no, 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 this time is different. Oh, we're just 2 more weeks away from the major breakthrough for this crypto. Oh, 2 more weeks and we're going to be there. 2 more weeks and we're going to have a new airdrop. 2 more weeks and we're going to have the killer app. Guys, none of that is occurring. And this is why I say we are now trading the market in front of us, not the market that we want. If you're trading the market that you want, you are playing what ifs. And in the market, especially at this point in the cycle, you cannot look at what ifs. What if Pump.Fund gives us an airdrop? What if, Cardano's new project called Midnight goes to, $1 bazillion? What if Michael Saylor keeps buying and buying and buying all the Bitcoin in the world? Well, then you have one person holding all the Bitcoin. Is that positive for the crypto? Is that positive for the price? And is that positive for the concentration of this ecosystem? The answer to all of these is no. But the bulls, they don't care. They ignore all of this. They ignore all the signals. And then they get mad when a company, a for-profit company, right, doesn't give them a piece of the pie because they use the product, right? Last I checked, you use Apple products or Samsung or Google products, and you're paying to use it. They're not paying you to use it. Anyway, so this is just an indicator, right? We have Tron ringing the bell at the stock exchange, which I don't really have any issues with, but this just shows the change, the transformation that has already been underway. Justin Sun was probably one of the most hated people in the previous administration when it came to crypto and stable coins and integration into the financial system here in the US. But now we're seeing changes with Tether, now Tron. This is very, very positive. But these are end cycle situations. This is not the beginning of the cycle. We've made it. The bullishness is getting to the point that you've made it. And so this brings us to Bitcoin, because there has been massive, massive, massive sell-off of Satoshi era Bitcoin wallets, almost $10 billion sent to exchanges and being sold off. According to blockchain analysts, the $10 billion sale may be absorbed by crypto markets without significant market impact. Yeah, it may, but that's still a lot of liquidity that is entering the markets at $110,000, $120,000. And so why are these coins being sold off? What does that mean? What does this indicate? And who's going to be the buyer? Granted, some of it may be MicroStrategy, but MicroStrategy is not buying $10 billion in one shot. And so that's why we've seen a massive drawdown in the price of Bitcoin. Guys, here's the timeline. Here is the timeline, right? 80,000 Bitcoin just a few weeks ago were moved. And basically the whole crypto ecosystem was like, oh my God, this is so bullish. They're moving Satoshi era Bitcoin just to show you that they still have these coins. And it's like, no, they're moving the coins because they're getting ready to sell it. I warned my viewers about this. And this is where we're talking about like where we are in the cycle, right? There's a lot of people on my videos who say, but Cryptoviser, you need to tell us what to do. It's like, no, I don't. First of all, these videos are delayed. Purposefully, they're delayed. And usually the video, if it comes out a week after I record it, the content is still all valid and accurate. And that's kind of one of the indicators that I know that we're at the end stages, right? Because even though I'm publishing a video a week after I record it, the content is still valid and the sentiment is still the way that it was the week before, right? It's like, guys, the top of the market is hit. No, the top of the market has not been hit, Cryptoviser. You're a freaking idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. 80,000 Bitcoin gets moved. They're going to sell it, guys. They're going to sell it. Cryptoviser, you're an idiot. They're not selling these Bitcoin. And then boom, 3 weeks later, they sell the Bitcoin. And so you had 2 weeks to prepare for the selling of those Bitcoin. They could have sold it quicker, but why didn't they? Well, we're going to get into that because they were testing the market. They were testing to see if they could sell it off in the market. And guess what? They could. Why could they sell it off in the market? Because the liquidity is there. You have buyers on the other side because everybody is buying the dip. Michael Saylor keeps buying all-time record highs. New companies popping up like Anthony Pompliano's ProCap. They're buying the top of the market. And so for them to be buying the top of the market, somebody has to be selling the top of the market as well. But the bulls are like, no, nobody's selling. Why would somebody be selling here? We're not at the top. It's like, clearly they're selling if somebody's buying. Like, this is common sense. This is like basics of the basics of the basics. I mean, you can't get any more ground level basic understanding than that, unless you're like negative IQ. But there's a lot of people at this point in the cycle that are like, no, Cryptoviser, nobody's selling their Bitcoin. It's like, what are you fucking talking about? Like, I don't know whether they're trolling or they're just like negative IQ, you know? I would hope it's trolling, but I'm starting to think it's actually negative IQ. But anyway, back to this. So after holding a stash since 2011, the Satoshi Era wallet transferred 40,000 Bitcoin worth 4.6 billion on July 15th. Okay, you guys are seeing this in August. And so that means half a month to start selling the Bitcoin. And people were like, they did not heed the warning. They did not take the movement of the Bitcoin as like, whoa, they're going to sell their Bitcoin. Let me get rid of my Bitcoin, or let me prepare for a drop in the Bitcoin price. And by the way, there's a reason there's a drop in the Bitcoin price. And it doesn't mean that all cryptos are going down, because they're not. And again, this is where we're talking about the whales are doing the smart thing. And this is the big move that's underway right now. And the big move that a lot of people are going to miss, because by the time the move starts occurring, if you start to rotate at that point, it's over. Too late. It's too late. And so they moved the Bitcoin, and then they had a second transaction of 40,000 Bitcoin on July 18th to Galaxy Digital. Now, this is very interesting. According to the blockchain intel forum, Look on Chain, Galaxy has since moved more than 10,000 Bitcoin to major crypto exchanges. And by the way, by the time you're watching this, all the Bitcoin, 80,000 are sold. And they market sold a lot of these. And typically, that's not the way that we've been seeing these sales occur. But this could be like short-term, very bullish for the market, right? Especially if you see a large influx of liquidity entering. Because if you see a large influx of liquidity entering the market, which we are, and the market is dipping, which it is, you have the big whales, the likes of MicroStrategy, that say that they're going to keep buying and buying and buying. And a lot of these newer companies that are doing the Bitcoin treasury strategy that have higher buy prices, they're going to want to buy at lower prices. And so they're going to buy the dips. And so in the short term, those dip buys, especially on the instant liquid, like think about it. If you have 80,000 Bitcoin, that's $10 billion entering the market, and it's able to be liquidated for relatively small moves in the market, then people get bullish. They're like, you see, the market could absorb it. We're going much, much higher. And that's called a bull trap because the trend is now selling versus buying. So a lot of people are not seeing this. A lot of people are like, oh no, Cryptoviser, it's not that big of a deal. It's like, no, this is literally what we've been talking about for the last 3 months, and now it is occurring. Right now, it's actually following through. And the rotation out of Bitcoin doesn't just disappear, right? We're seeing stable coins increasing. We're seeing moves into other ecosystems, which we're about to talk about, right? And another whale from 2011 just woke up and sold 14,000 Bitcoin. So we have 80,000 plus 14,000, so 100,000 Bitcoin. And yes, maybe the market's going to absorb it. Maybe the ETFs and the MicroStrategy will buy it. But is this bullish for the market? Is this an indicator of where we are? Why would big whales be selling at this point? Well, because the whales know 12 to 18 months after the Bitcoin halving, that's the top of the market. And where are we right now? We're in the 16-month time frame after the Bitcoin halving. So we got less than 3 months left. This user on X, VLXD, who is a full guac developer, interesting, and a market maker, he said, in case you're wondering what Galaxy Digital is doing with the Bitcoin they are and why they're dumping at the market, they made a deal to buy 80,000 Bitcoin over the counter at a 10% discount, right? They received Bitcoin 2 weeks ago at $120,000, dumb sum for collateral and to test the reaction of the market. Now, if you go look at the actual wallets of Galaxy Digital, you actually see this, where there's been a lot of movement and a lot of test sales over the last couple of weeks. And so these test sales go in the market to test the liquidity. Because like if you go to some very low volume altcoins, and you go to just try to sell, like go do it. Like go try this in your portfolio. Like look for one of your coins that is like somewhat low liquidity and not really in the narrative, and just sell a small portion of it. And what you will see is the market reaction to just that small sale in a thinly traded market can push the price down. It won't even fill your order at some points. Even if your limit order is below the current bid and ask price, sometimes it still won't, it won't fill it because it'll instantly drop the price. And you could do that with $5 and it could drop the price. And it's like, wait, if I'm dropping the price on a $5 sale, what would happen if it was $1 million sale? And again, this is where you don't want to be trying to sell when everybody else is. Because if everyone's trying to go to the exit door at the same time, it's going to take a while. And so that's really important to understand, that they're doing these test sales to make sure that the market can absorb it. And once they can see that the market, yes, can absorb large quantities, then they just got to go for it. Because once the market sniffs out that people are selling large quantities, even in tranches, it will start to plummet. And then they won't have that liquidity to exit into. So they do have to do it all at once, right? Because going from $120,000 to $110,000, let's say, by selling $80,000 all at once, is better than slowly going down to, $80,000 and then selling at that $80,000 price. Anyway, as we talked about, after they did those tests, idiots continued to buy the dip. The price was stuck between 118 and 120,000 for 2 weeks. Remember what I said? 2 weeks from the time those Bitcoins started moving to the time we actually saw the major sales. And you didn't take any action in your portfolio? That's foolish on your end. It's the same thing we've been talking about with the Bitcoin mining companies. As they've been hitting all-time record lows and definitely multi-year record lows, why are we not buying these? The Ethereum treasury companies, why are we not buying these? You have time. People want me to post a video the day that things are occurring, but you got time, right? And that's part of what this channel is about. It's about looking at the market, analyzing it, and then making good financial decisions. These are not FOMO decisions. Then you load hedge shorts in the range for the entire stack. It's easy to fill $8 to $10 billion in this time span, 2 weeks, right? Proceed to dump on idiots that are fully hedged. Because there are a lot of people, even MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy just announced the pricing of their new debt offering called Stretch Perpetual Preferred Stock. They're offering upsize from $500 million to $2.5 billion. But everybody's cheering this on and saying, great, Michael Saylor's going to buy all that Bitcoin. First of all, if you have one market participant that is the sole buyer of the market, it's not good. It's actually very risky and very bad. But number two, again, they're doing exactly what this user is saying, calling them idiots, right? Because they could just wait a little bit, let the market dump, and then buy at lower prices. But instead, they don't want the market to dump even a penny. And so they keep buying and buying and buying. Like I said, like Anthony Pompliano, smart guy. He's starting this company ProCap. Why are they not waiting with their raised money until the bear market, right? Raise the money now, put it in stable coins, earn 4 or 5% yield on it, and wait for the bear market and then buy at much lower prices. But that's not what they are doing, because they're like, no, Bitcoin's going to $1 million. Well, yeah, but not in the short term. Anyway, then they close the shorts into idiot liquidations while continuing to dump hedged spot. Idiots are surprised and criticize the execution while they donated you a free 10% on a $10 billion bag of shit. You smile knowing that idiots think you're the idiot, but you now have $1 billion. Yep, I agree. This is the same thing with the MicroStrategy, fully, deployed into MicroStrategy. If somebody sells their MicroStrategy, they call you an idiot, but you're the one who ended up walking away with profit. They're stuck in that position. And now the market is starting to rotate. And this is what we've been talking about, right? Why is it rotating and where is it rotating? I have another video somewhere here. Here we go. Who owns Galaxy Digital? Mike Novogratz. Mike Novogratz is an Ethereum bull. He said on CNBC just the other day The narrative of Ethereum is really powerful. There's not a lot of supply of Ethereum. I think Ethereum outperforms Bitcoin in the next 6 months. Let's listen to what he says here. And don't forget to give this video a free thumbs up. I upload every single day to bring you the latest happening in the financial world. It takes a lot of time and effort to do these videos, find all the research and put all these videos together. But I do it because I want to bring you guys along on the journey of investing and learning about these markets and figuring out, what the right moves are. You don't have to agree with everything I say, but I do appreciate the thumbs up. And if you want to help support the channel, click the join button or subscribe plus button down below to learn how you can become a channel member for as little as $1.99 a month. People making a lot of money in the market, supposedly. These MicroStrategy bulls and Bitcoin bulls, they're making a lot of money, but they can't even afford $2 a month. Maybe it's because I'm so bearish on Bitcoin at this point in the market. But anyway, let's listen to what Mike Novogratz says here.
What do you make of some of the other coins? So Ether, we just had somebody on this week putting together the equivalent of an Ether MicroStrategy of sorts in terms of a leveraged bet that other people are going to be able to buy into. Also, everything's getting tokenized. We've talked about stable coins. Right now, if you could buy Ether or Bitcoin, which do you buy?
I own both. Listen, Ether's caught up a lot. It feels like if ETH takes out 4,000, it goes into price discovery. And so we feel kind of destined to at least knock on the 4,000 ceiling a few times. The narrative of Ether is really powerful, and the market was really short. And now we have not just, one, we have two major ETH treasury companies and another one coming, and they're raising capital every day and buying Ether. And so there's not a lot of supply of ETH. And so I think ETH probably has a chance to outperform Bitcoin in the next 3 to 6 months.
What do you make?
And so we're hearing this from somebody who is both Bitcoin and Ethereum. But if he believes that Ethereum is going to outperform Bitcoin, what do you think they're doing? They're buying Ethereum. This is the big move. This is the big move, right? Are we going to go above 4,000? Are we going to hit all-time record highs of 5,000? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. And I don't think anybody knows, right? But when we see 80,000 Bitcoin, $10 billion of Bitcoin being dumped on the market, and other whales also unlocking they're taking the liquidity, they're taking the money. Because at the end of the day, you can be in Bitcoin your whole life and never actually realize any of the gains and never be able to do the things that you wanted to do or pay the things that you wanted to do or help the people that you wanted to help. So you gotta realize it, right? You have to realize it at some point. And so that's what they're doing. They have potentially billions of dollars, tens of billions of dollars that they want to cash out, and now they see the cash is there. It may not be there tomorrow, it may not be there next month, but it's there now. And so they're taking it. And that they're playing a very different game than you're playing in the market. It just is what it is. And there's other issues in the Bitcoin space as well, right? There's this 21-minute documentary about residents in Texas near Marathon Digital's 300 megawatt Bitcoin mining facility in unincorporated Hood County. I don't even know what that means, unincorporated. Describe life as hell due to the constant noise from the Bitcoin mining machines. Now, I'm not going to watch this 20-minute video today, but I would definitely recommend watching it because it is an interesting conversation. We've heard this in the previous cycles as well, where people in these towns are complaining about the noise and this and that. Is that end stage of the cycle? Potentially, right? Because the narratives start to break down. The narratives that have been going on start to break down. And again, if you've been watching my videos for this year, right? Not one video, not two videos, right? Few videos a week, you understand my thesis and are probably on the same page. And by the way, you have been prepared for all of these things that we're talking about here. The big move. We also hear Mike Novogratz congratulating Joe Lubin from SharpLink and Consensus, saying that he's shown relentless dedication to this project since day one, Ethereum, and the tremendous amount of patience in educating the rest of us, well deserved. And by the way, if you don't think that Mike Novogratz would buy more Ethereum, also, by the way, he said there's 2 Ethereum treasury companies and about to be a third. Maybe it's Galaxy Digital, right? And the point here is like they're going to make bets, right? Mike Novogratz made bets on Terra Luna last cycle. He got a tattoo of Terra Luna's logo, and Terra Luna collapsed. I mean, think about that. And so there's a very high likelihood that he's going to play this Ethereum trade, and he's not the only one that's doing it. Joe Lubin with Consensus is doing it. We just saw the Bankless guys reported that Ethereum ETF inflows have flipped Bitcoin inflows every day. At the end of July, you can see here, Bitcoin had outflows and Ethereum has hundreds of millions of dollars of inflows into the ETFs every single day. And it's probably going to continue as the Ethereum narrative continues to draw more and more attention. More and more companies are moving their Bitcoin operations into Ethereum. Ethereum has staking rewards, so it's productive money. And I would expect that we're going to see one of these companies here enter the 1 million Ethereum threshold. Now, it may be Galaxy Digital because let's just do the math on this, right? They're saying about $9.7 billion was raised from this 80,000 Bitcoin sale. And so if we divide that number, $9.7 billion, and we divide it by the current price of Ethereum, about $3,600, we'll just say $3,600, that's about 2.6 or 2.7 million Ethereum. I think I did the math wrong on this. 9.7, that's million, that's billion. There we go. Divided by 3,600, yeah, 2.7 million Ethereum. That would be basically 5 times the amount that Bitmine has, and almost 10x the amount that SharpLink has currently. And so there's a potential that that is going to occur. And if that does occur, what do you think is going to happen to the Ethereum price? Now, don't get it twisted. There's a lot of Ethereum that can be offloaded into the market, right? The supply of Ethereum is, I think, 6 times the size of Bitcoin. Bitcoin 21 million. Ethereum is at about 120 million. And so it does have a much higher supply, and there's definitely coins that are going to be sold on the market, but are they going to be sold in the $3,000 range when we've already had Ethereum in the $3,000 range the previous cycle, earlier in this cycle, and pretty much throughout? And so it hasn't really moved, and if it does move, or people were going to sell, they probably would have sold before, right? With Bitcoin, this is the first time Bitcoin is actually hitting $120,000. So seeing these sales shouldn't surprise anyone. But if we kept hitting 120,000, the sales would probably kind of level off. And I think that's going to be the same thing that's going to happen with Ethereum. But we'll have to wait and see. It's going to be really interesting to see how that does play out because Wall Street has a lot of money to deploy, and they're looking for a better bet than Bitcoin right now because the fact that Ethereum hasn't reached all-time record highs, that stable coins and DeFi and tokenization is all going to be happening within the Ethereum and layer 2 ecosystems. It's not happening on Bitcoin. That is where the narrative is shifting. But are you shifting with it? Now, by the way, just because they're buying Ethereum doesn't mean that this is all bullish. There's definitely risks involved. One of the things that we've talked about is the selling of shares on the open market to raise money to then go and buy more Ethereum. It's the flywheel, as they call it. But it's important to keep in mind the number of shares that they're flooding into the market. SharpLink has authorized a share increase from 500 million total shares to 100 million shares. From 100 million shares to 500 million. So basically they're 5xing their total shares. And so the reason they're doing this is because they want to sell more shares on the open market. That way they can go and buy more Ethereum. I don't know what that's going to do for their stock price, right? But I think the constant purchasing of Ethereum right now, especially that we haven't had this inflow previously, and the quantity and the pace of the inflows, I think this has the potential to really move the Ethereum price up over the medium term, right, into the end of 2025. But that's going to take a lot of the focus off of Bitcoin. And this is where I think that we'll start to see alt season, right? So as more moves away from Bitcoin, as the Bitcoin price drops, as the Bitcoin treasury company stock prices drop, like MicroStrategy, there is a huge potential here that as the Bitcoin price goes down and MicroStrategy price goes down, we're also going to see an MNAV compression. And that will accelerate the downward move of MicroStrategy. I don't know when it's going to occur, but it's going to occur. I think we're going to see probably more NAV compression here during the initial drawdown in Bitcoin. And I think that that's going to happen as we see Ethereum pumping. And so as that occurs, it's going to cause more people to get out of Bitcoin and rotate into Ethereum because they're going to see that Ethereum is performing better at that time. And that's going to accelerate the Ethereum price appreciation, also accelerate the MicroStrategy or Bitcoin companies' price depreciation. And this is where I think we're going to see the major spikes. And during that trend, while Ethereum is in the spotlight, people are going to start looking at layer twos and Ethereum adjacent chains, which they already are, by the way. But they're going to be starting to look at it even more. And then we'll see the rotation probably from Ethereum into those alts, and then potentially one more round back to Bitcoin, then Ethereum, then alts, and then cycle over. But we may not see the second round there, right? This may be the second round, what we're in right now. And so it's really important that we have risk management tools at our disposal this cycle, and especially at this point in the cycle. Tom Dunleavy, who is head of venture capital at Varys Capital and formerly a senior analyst at Masari Crypto, said, just look at the documents for another oversubscribed $200 million plus Ethereum treasury company. We are going to have at the market bids for Ethereum just sitting on the shelf for $10 billion plus by the end of the quarter. And that's possible because Ethereum, I don't think, is going to have as many insider sales from whales the way that we're seeing in Bitcoin and the way that MicroStrategy is being able to acquire all this Bitcoin. Because I think MicroStrategy is buying directly from the Bitcoin mining companies and also earlier investors, right? Private placements, as we're seeing with most of the Bitcoin treasury companies at this point in the cycle. But I don't think that we're at the point where they're going to offload to that degree with Ethereum. I think that's going to either happen much later in the cycle or potentially in the next cycle. And this is, to Tom Dunleavy's point, probably going to cause the spot price of Ethereum to really soar as we see more and more and more purchasing. BitMine, which is Tom Lee's company here, their market cap surged from $26 million to $4.5 billion after the leadership changes, generating $100 million annually. Right? They went from no Ethereum to hundreds of thousands of Ethereum, from millions of dollars in market cap to billions of dollars in market cap. The transition has already been underway. And there's a lot of people who have not been paying attention. There's a lot of people who have not been trading the market in front of us. They're trading the market they want. And so they haven't been rotating. They haven't been making changes in their portfolio. They are surprised when they're seeing 80,000 Bitcoin entering the market and freaking out about it. We're not doing any of that. We're totally calm and relaxed and expecting all of this to occur because the bull market tells us what's going to happen before it actually happens. And we are now at the end stages of the bull market, and there's people who are in complete denial about it. But by the way, we're not just seeing the big move into Ethereum, but like I said, it's going to be Ethereum adjacent and also Ethereum layer twos. Because remember, the Genius Act, the recent legislation that just passed, it was a lot of market clarity for stable coins and DeFi usage. This user, Alex, who is a founder of a research firm, said the USDC on Polygon now has the lowest on-ramp fee on-ramp money. This allows you to save a lot of money when buying USDC. He said he's already written many times that building payment projects on Polygon will be one of the best business decisions, and you can clearly see here. On Coinbase's base, the fee is 0.3 cents, Arbitrum 15 cents, Solana 50 cents, Binance 2 cents, Ethereum $1.50, and Polygon Network 0.0064 cents, so significantly cheaper. And again, you may say, well, this is not a big network fee, but when you're processing a lot on a regular basis, it all adds up, right? And so, yeah, the layer twos is where it's at. HBAR is now live on the Robinhood app, bridging the gap between 25 million customers and Hedera's native token as one of the largest retail trading platforms in the world. This marks a pivotal moment for accessibility to the network. And again, what is Hedera? Hedera is an Ethereum adjacent type chain that has a lot built on it. They're even building AI. They have a stablecoin studio. And so there's going to be a lot of beneficiaries of this transition, the big trade that we're talking about here. And we're also seeing the banks starting to get involved in alternative blockchains like this. Franklin Templeton is going to bring the Benji platform to VeChain for enterprise payments. So VeChain, the layer one blockchain with real world applications, is partnering with asset manager Franklin Templeton to integrate the company's Benji platform for enterprise payments. The move extends the reach of Franklin Templeton's platform while providing businesses operating on VeChain another stablecoin option. Franklin Templeton's Benji platform permits tokenized access to the company's Franklin Templeton on-chain U.S. government money market fund, an on-chain money market fund worth around $780 million. The fund invests in cash, governance securities, and collateralized repurchase agreements. One Benji token is equivalent to one share in the fund, which the company tries to peg at $1. As part of the move, infrastructure provider BitGo will also join VeChain as a custody partner, while KeyRock, a crypto investment firm, will bring derivative trading capabilities. Interesting. According to the note from the company, the collaboration would strengthen Franklin Templeton's distribution strategy, while giving enterprises and institutional investors engaging with VeChain a differentiated way to integrated tokenized money market funds into their payment and cash management options. VeChain claims that its dual token structure enables predictable and low-cost operations, which are helpful for money market funds like the one we just talked about. Very interesting stuff here. Because again, these are the projects that are actually doing things. We're also hearing trading platform WooX paused withdrawals after a $14 million breach. Now, this is going to occur, right? But these are indicators of where we are in the cycle. Typically in bear markets, you don't see hacks, you don't see thefts, you don't see any of these breaches that are occurring. It all happens in the bull market. Why? Because market prices are high and there's a lot of liquidity and money on exchanges. But at the end of the day, all of that can disappear overnight because of a breach, because of a sale, because of a purchase on the other end. And remember, for every purchase that MicroStrategy or any of these companies are making Bitcoin, there's a seller. And it seems like the selling is accelerating. And this is going to cause the market and the whales to move, which they already are doing and probably already have done. But have you rotated? Have you made the big move out of Bitcoin and into Ethereum and Ethereum layer 2s? I could be wrong on this. Make sure you guys do your own research, understand what you're investing in and the risks involved. But for today's video, hopefully you guys enjoyed the conversation. Don't forget to give the video a free thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button. That way you never miss a new video. We upload every single day right here on the channel. See you guys on the next video. Invest responsibly. Do your own research, and crypto on.